recording.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon. I am Rima Al-Salem, the UN Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women and Girls. And I'm here joined today by most of my colleagues who are members of the EDVAW Platform. That is the platform of international and regional mechanisms that deal with discrimination and violence against women and girls. And we have gathered here today because we wanted to discuss the importance of the fact that the Beijing Declaration and Platform of Action is turning 30 years today. We have all used the BDPA in different ways. We have all benefited from this groundbreaking process and roadmap of action. And so we wanted also to share with all of you our experience, not just collectively, but also as independent mechanisms. So I will be posing the same question to my fellow colleagues in the EDVAW platform. And I will start with Laura Nirikindi, who is the chair of the working group on discrimination against women and girls. She joins us today. Laura, it's wonderful to have you here. Thank you for coming. I know you can't stay the entire period with us, so I'm gonna start right away with asking you actually, in the perspective of the working group, what is the significance of the Beijing Declaration and Platform of Action turning 30 years? How has the working group engaged on the issues and the recommendations that were in the BDPA? Has it helped you in any way to advance also equality of women and girls and prevent their discrimination? Over to you, Laura.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here, and I would like to thank the co-chairs, Reem and Honorable Janet, for organizing this online event. We value our partnership as part of the EDVAW platform, and we are fully committed to collaborating towards achieving gender equality and ending violence against women. Commemorating 30 years of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, it enables us to reflect on the progress towards achieving gender equality, but also empowering women and girls. Additionally, this year, our working group is celebrating the 15th anniversary of our mandate, around which we are assessing our collective achievements alongside important stakeholders like states, civil society, and others in implementing crucial provisions of the BDPA. Now, the BDPA remains a crucial framework for addressing gender equality for all women and girls in diverse circumstances. So based on our work over the past 15 years, the working group is reflecting on and has identified achievements, but also challenges and pathways to realizing the principles and critical areas of the Beijing Declaration. We have observed significant progress on issues such as improving access to sexual and reproductive health services and rights, enacting laws against gender-based violence, reducing gender gaps in labor inclusion, economic empowerment, public and political participation. That's a big one. And recognizing and redistributing unpaid care and domestic work. Despite these developments, women and girls continue to face discrimination at every stage of their lives, in the public and private spaces, as well as in law and in practice. Alarmingly, numerous hard-won gains for women are being reversed, especially in family rights and bodily autonomy. The backlash against gender equality and the rights of women and girls has escalated severely in the socio-economic, political, and cultural spheres. In specific instances of extremism, gender apartheid has resulted, and we cannot accept this. Together, we must stand firm and reverse this trend. Now, through collaboration, documentation, judicial intervention, monitoring, and advocacy, the working group plays a vital role in translating the commitments of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action into tangible improvements in the lives of women and girls worldwide, particularly those who experience multiple, cumulative, and intersecting forms of discrimination. Our annual reports to the Human Rights Council, including thematic and country visit reports, and we have conducted 25 visits across the region, across the globe, and our amicus curiae interventions in courts and other decision-making platforms, quasi-judicial making platforms, they reflect the implementation status of key action areas in the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. And we identify areas requiring further attention. Through these measures, we provide specific recommendations to member states to enhance their accountability in promoting women and girls' rights, such as strengthening legal frameworks, eliminating gender stereotypes, allocating gender-responsive resources, and protecting the rights of women human rights defenders, and promoting girls' activism. Through our country visits and communications, and to date we have participated in 900 communications, including with you, Rem, the working group monitors member states' implementation of the recommendations from the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action and holds member states accountable for their commitments towards achieving gender equality. This involves evaluating, in some instances, national laws, policies, and societal practices to ensure alignment with international human rights standards on gender equality. Lastly, but very notably, the working group has collaborated with various groups of women and girls and civil society organizations to gather their insights and amplify their voices. We ensure that our recommendations are grounded in their realities in order to enhance gender-responsive decision-making and policies and practice at national and international level. Thank you, Rim.
Thank you very much, Laura. That was very comprehensive. So given that you're going to be in New York also very shortly, joining all of us, and this is going to be a very pivotal session of the Commission on the Status of Women, I was just wondering if there is any key recommendation that the working group has to the Commission for this session, which, as we know, is obviously dedicated primarily to the review of the BDPA. So what would you like to see coming out of this meeting?
Sure. Since its inception, the working group has emphasized the need to eliminate barriers to achieving gender equality, particularly those that oppose the universality of women's rights and those that fragment and weaken the human rights system. On this significant anniversary, we can reflect collectively through the CSW 69 on how to upscale and accelerate progress made and how to counter rollbacks and areas of stagnation or regression. It is essential to advocate for CEDAW, UN Security Council Resolution 1325, which, as you know, is celebrating 25 years, and other critical international and regional frameworks on gender equality to achieve universal ratification, domestication, and implementation, thereby upholding the standards that promote and protect women's rights. We also hope that CSW 69 will address strategies for closing countries' gaps between policy and implementation and eliminating systemic structural barriers to creating just, resilient, and inclusive societies for women and girls everywhere. We seek, as the working group, to learn about successful initiatives and best practices that will come for the CSW from various countries, communities, stakeholders that can be replicated in different contexts. We look forward to key outcomes, commitments, and actionable recommendations for governments and stakeholders, along with strong follow-up mechanisms to ensure accountability and sustained action towards achieving gender equality. Thank you, Rim.
Amen to that, Laura. Wonderful. Thank you very much. I know you have to leave us now, but see you very soon in New York.
See you soon, and all the best, ladies, as you prepare for these very important meetings and events. Thank you. Bye.
And I have the pleasure now to welcome Ms. Irene Desiree Mbenge, who is also the Senior Legal Officer and Head of the Legal Department in the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. She's going to speak on behalf of the Commission, representing the Honorable Commissioner Janet Ramatuli Salinge, who is the Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Women in Africa. The Commissioner is also the co-chair of the EDVAW Platform for this year, together with myself, the Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women and Girls. Welcome, Irene. It's great to have you here. Irene, I'll start with the first question again, since you may not have heard it before we at the beginning, since you came a little bit later. But basically, we're very interested in hearing from you what, in the view of the Commission and for the Commissioner also, is the significance of Beijing turning 30 years, and how the Commission may have engaged on issues and recommendations contained in the BDPA, and how you think it has helped also pushing gender equality and preventing and addressing discrimination and violence against women and girls. So you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Reem, and apologies for joining late. As you know, we are multitasking. I'm in session at the moment. I had to leave to join this meeting because I just got a text from the vice chair that she won't be able to join. So I had to step in for her. So it's, yeah, but thank you very much for your patience. And thank you for the question. And just to indicate that for the mandate of the Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Women, we think that this is a very pivotal moment for reflecting on the progress, the challenges, and the future of gender equality. And I think this milestone is very significant for us because it aligns with the Special Rapporteur's mandate and the ongoing efforts that the mechanism is doing to advance the rights of women at the global and even at the regional level. And also to us, we feel that it's going to be an opportunity for us to address the systematic discrimination and violence against women and girls. So the Beijing Declaration's anniversary, it's for us a call for the Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Women to reinvigorate her efforts, or its efforts because it's a mechanism, to address persistent gender inequalities and structural barriers. And also the declaration's 12 critical areas of concern, including poverty, education, health, violence against women, and political participation, deeply resonate with the mandate of the Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Women. And I think that these areas also are also reflected in the Maputo Protocol, which also serve as a regional counterpart to the Beijing Declaration and provides legally binding protection for women's rights in the African continent. In addition to that, it's also an opportunity to have an alignment with the Maputo Protocol. As you are aware, the Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Women has consistently emphasized the synergy between the Beijing Declaration and the Maputo Protocol. I think she always mentions this in all her interventions, and that both frameworks advocate for the elimination of systematic discrimination and violence against women, but the Maputo Protocol offers a stronger legal enforcement mechanisms at the regional level. For example, Article 4 on the right to life and Article 14 on health and reproductive health rights directly address issues highlighted in the Beijing Declaration. So I think it's also an opportunity for us to address structural violence and also reflect on, reinforce our regional frameworks and also work together through this platform to be able to take that forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. And in that respect, what is the one recommendation that the Commission and the Commissioner would like to see coming out of the Commission on the Status of Women session this year?
Thank you for that question, Reem. I think for me, I would like to highlight two, even though you said one. Yeah, and I think the first one is strengthening accountability mechanisms, because I believe that the CSW should establish a robust monitoring and evaluation system to track progress on the implementation of the Beijing Declaration, especially the indicators, and also to be able to measure the gender equality outcomes at the national, regional, and even global levels. And I'd also like to, for us to highlight the issue of inclusive participation, and that the CSW should ensure the full and meaningful participation of women and girls, particularly those from marginalized communities, because we have that a lot in the African continent, in the design, implementation, and monitoring of gender equality policies, because this align with the Beijing Declaration's principle of nothing, what is that again? Nothing about us without us. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Irene, and very much looking forward to continuing to work with the Commissioner and with you as the two co-chairs of the EDVAW platform this year. I should have said at the beginning that together with everyone on the platform, we have just produced and released a position paper on the Beijing +30, which we have also shared with members of the Commission on the Status of Women. So we're making that document available in addition to a number of joint actions that we will engage on in New York over the next coming 2 weeks. Moving on, I'm very glad to welcome also here with us the new incoming chair of the CEDAW committee, Mrs. Nahla Haidar, it is also the first time that you join us here on the EDVAW platform. Wonderful to see you, Nahla.
Thank you. So
Nahla, you've heard the questions.
Yes,
if you
I would
like
not ask you to
share
repeat them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Reem, with great pleasure, and thank you. And I wanted to seize this opportunity to congratulate the EDVAW platform, because I've been following, obviously, all the work done during the tenure of my colleague, Mrs. Ana Peláez, and the importance of bringing together regional and international mechanism, because it has really helped strengthen our impact in those challenging time of setbacks. I will not repeat what was said by Laura and by Irene on the challenges that we are still facing, but I'd like to start by reiterating that indeed this anniversary of this landmark agreement, as you rightly said, which has addressed 12 critical areas of concern that remain, unfortunately, critical areas of concern after 30 years, despite progress. So, however we look at it, we see that the backlash against these rights, including the underrepresentation of women in decision-making and new forms of violence and misinformation, are going to be affecting the way we move forward on further implementation of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. I think that the work that CEDAW has done over the years, because CEDAW predated the Beijing Declaration, but CEDAW found in that declaration the most important opportunity, as it became like an operationalization of the convention. So it has shifted completely after Beijing the perception of member states and state parties in this context of the convention and their obligation under the convention and how they can go about it, because that framework gave them a lot of tools and tips on how to measure progress, assess difficulties, and address challenges. What I need to say also on the Beijing Platform for Action and the convention is they really worked in tandem. For 30 years, we've been working in tandem. And if some of you would like to look at all what we have produced in the past years in terms of general recommendation, they relate to many of the areas of concern. So that is very clearly the relationship between the platform and CEDAW. You know, in CEDAW, we have the ability, being the only binding legal instrument on women's rights and almost universally ratified, to call to account state party. And I like the fact that accountability is mentioned as one of the issues that we need to ask CSW to do more about. And I will also join my voice on that. But we have done a lot through our constructive dialogues, but not only through issuing the concluding observation, ensuring follow-up 2 years after the dialogue, but also doing individual complaints, also producing inquiry reports that are a very important jurisprudence that have helped move the agenda forward further and further. So I think that the effort in advancing the equality of women and girls have been maximized by the platform, and has really helped, first of all, reach out at all levels, from field to the policy, and from local to national to international. And we have a big challenge ahead of us because we still need to maintain this impact and address the emerging challenges that were not foreseen at the time, such as the issues related to technology facilitated violence against women, or climate change and its gendered impact, and many other issues that the committee also has been working on and producing soft law tools to help guide state parties on how to address them best. And I would like also to add that in the dialogue processes with state party, we continuously refer to the platform of action. It's not, I wouldn't like to say it's a standard paragraph, because it is much more meaningful than being standard. But in addition to having the SDG and having at the time also the millennium, we have always taken on board, because CEDAW takes the pride of being one of the rare conventions that has one pillar in development and one pillar in human rights, and that we should never abandon the pillar of development, because it's only through proper development and empowerment of women that we will be able to have lasting impact. I don't know, I didn't watch the minutes, but if you want, I can stop here and maybe try to come back to some of the issues under your second question, which is, what are the recommendations to the CSW? I think it is very important to put again, and I think one of the speakers, maybe it was Laura, I can't remember, to put back again CEDAW at the center of CSW. CEDAW is the brainchild of CSW. And for whatever reason, UN bureaucracy, whatever, CEDAW lost a little bit the link to the CSW when it was moved fully to Geneva. And this is not a valid way of dealing with the centrality of the convention. So we shouldn't be just going to New York like visiting. We should be seen as integral part, together with all of you, the mechanism, with your respective mandate. But CEDAW is your central tool, all of you, and gives you the legitimacy at the international level and to do what you're doing. So we need to ensure that the accountability that CSW has to start to look into can be based on the accountability that CEDAW is already undertaking through its dialogue, follow-up reports, that we can produce analytic papers yearly to the CSW on what worked, what didn't work, and why, have regional perspective, try to be much more than, window dressing during the CSW. Then I would like also to say that global agreed conclusions are sometimes such a hectic exercise of politics rather than of substance, that we need to be careful to protect the substantive part of it and make it actionable and make it really like a tool for state parties and member states when they go back home, and not simply a political statement. How can we turn that? We can only turn that if we maximize the professionalism and the interaction with the professional mechanism, like the special rapporteurs, the convention itself, the working group, other regional groups. I think we need to start considering this in light of the few years of practice where all of this was lost, and maybe we were not well equipped to deal with the backlash because we were not acting as one. And that's what I like about the EDVAW platform, because it gives an opportunity to act genuinely as one on the issue of violence. So I'll stop here and we'll take any question if there are any. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Nahla. I very much agree with you on the point that one of the bigger challenges we're facing now is also these emerging and new forms of violence and manifestations of violence, and the importance that the CSW and states also engage the EDVAW platform members and other independent mechanisms more closely in reviewing or taking stock of where we stand. Thank you for that. Moving on, I have the pleasure of also welcoming another regional mechanism, an important one as well, from Europe, Grevio. We have with us Maria Andriani Costopoulou, who is the chair of Grevio, and very interested also in your perspective, Adriana, of how does a regional mechanism like yours view the Beijing Declaration Platform of Action, benefit from it, amplify the messages, so, and also what you'd like to see coming out of this.
Thank you very much, Reem, and I would like to thank you and also the co-chair for organizing this online event, and also extend a very warm welcome to our new member, Nahla, from CEDAW. So about the significance with the adoption of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action in 1995, 30 years ago, governments, organizations, and civil society around the world made bold commitments towards gender equality. And not only that, together they committed to an ongoing process of review and, as was said, of accountability, which ensures its principles remain at the forefront of global policy discussions. This review process allows us to continuously assess and to drive forward the global agenda for gender equality. It allows us all to take stock of progress and to adapt our responses to challenging context, as was mentioned also. It allows us to foster international cooperation and to shine a light on the responsibilities of government around the world to make equality between women and men a reality. So far, we have seen 4 periodic meetings to review the progress made every 5 years, with one exception where it took 10 years to convene another meeting. The commitments made were tracked, advancements reported on, best practices shared, and support to the Beijing platform and its 12 critical areas of concern reaffirmed. There is, I think, great significance in all of these steps, and the Beijing platform has proved that change is possible. For example, over the years, the review process has helped with government accountability and has evolved to address the intersectional nature of gender inequality. The reviews have pushed for greater inclusivity, emphasizing the need to ensure that the voices of marginalized groups are central to the conversation. And I'm thinking, for example, of women with disabilities, rural women, ethnic and minority women, migrant women, LGBTI women, women facing addiction issues, and many, many other groups of women and girls. And this is crucial if we want the global agenda for gender equality to change the lives of all women and girls. It is sure that more remains to be done, and looking forward is very, very important. But there is another consideration I would like to offer. The Beijing Platform for Action, with its 12 critical areas of concern, provided much needed vision at global level. And this vision paved the way for vision at regional level as to how to achieve women's equality with men. The convention and monitoring mechanism that I represent was born out of this. The Istanbul Convention, which is also known as the Council of Europe Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence, was developed with the interplay between gender inequality and violence against women at heart. It embodies the understanding that eradicating one without the other will not work. Its development came some 15 years after Beijing and has since, I think, contributed to the global agenda for women's rights. Now, in EDVAW, the independent monitoring mechanism established by the Istanbul Convention, our work focuses on violence against women, which is one of the 12 critical areas of concern of the Beijing Platform for Action. But we do so with a greater picture in mind. And this is the fact that eradicating violence against women in all its forms is a strategic objective for the attainment of real equality between women and men. We still see too many examples of women and girls being held back, not developing their potential, not participating politically, giving up their job or dropping out of school because of violence against them. And the link between our work and attaining the objectives of the Beijing Platform for Action, I would say, transpires through every single one of our reports. So the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action is an essential year for feminism, a time to look back, see what we have learned, and how to use this knowledge in the present and future. I think it's a moment of collective truth, and at the same time, a moment to take further action, including by insisting on balancing power structures so that everyone has an equitable chance in the world. Now, if I may continue with the second question, key recommendations and what EDVAW would like to see as an outcome. I would like to reiterate that the periodic meetings to review the progress are essential. The progress reviewing the progress allow us to take stock of achievements and recognize our weaknesses. It also helps policymakers around the globe to shape and to adapt their responses to challenging contexts, to emerging challenges, because there are many currently. In light of this, I would like to make not that much of a recommendation, but perhaps more of a wish. It is important to ensure that at this CSW, a strong message is sent that regression on women's rights and gender equality is unacceptable, that we need to move forward and not backwards, and that we have the tools to do so. Political will and commitment are absolutely necessary in this regard, and the Beijing Platform for Action serves as a global agenda, and it is supported and reinforced by the various treaties that inform the work of the 7 members of this platform that we all represent today. So I would like to see coming out of the CSW sessions meeting a very strong document that offers the way forward on all critical areas of concern that require attention, a document that serves as a recommitment to all pillars with a very strong focus on violence against women, of course, as this is the thematic scope of a Grevious mandate. The Beijing review process provides a crucial framework to ensure progress towards a more just and equal world for women and men, girls and boys. And I think it's a crucial moment that we put it to use everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. It's very interesting to see how some of the same priorities and findings come up in each of your presentations. And also thank you for shedding more light on this link, this very clear link between regional and international processes and legal frameworks, and the fact that it's all connected. And now I have also the pleasure to welcome with us Mrs. Sherna Alexander Benjamin, who is, of course, from MESECVI, the follow-up mechanism on the Belém do Pará Convention. And MESECVI is one of 2 America's specific mechanisms, the other being the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, who unfortunately couldn't join us. But I'm very glad that, Sherna, we have you here with us today. And I give you also the floor to tell us a little bit more about how MESECVI views the Beijing Declaration, Platform of Action, but also the significance of it turning 30 and what you would like to see coming out as at the CSW. Thank you.
Good day, Reem, and thank you for putting together this session, and congratulations to yourself and Janet as co-chairs, and to all the speakers who went before. It has truly been an inspirational moment just listening to what have been done and also the recommendations. As we gather here to mark the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Platform for Action, we recognize that this is not just a moment for reflection, it is a call to action. For MESECVI, this milestone is deeply significant as it coincides with the 30th anniversary of the Belém do Pará Convention and the 20th anniversary of MESECVI itself. These 3 anniversaries together remind us of the powerful synergy between international and regional instruments in the fight for gender equality and the eradication of gender-based violence against women and girls. Beijing laid out a transformative vision for women's rights, but it is the binding nature of the instruments like the Belém do Pará Convention that has ensured that these commitments do not remain aspirational, but instead translate into concrete legal policy and institutional reforms. Over the past 3 decades, the alignment between Beijing and Belamdupara has driven landmark legislative changes, strengthened institutions, and expanded protections for women across Latin America and the Caribbean. However, as we commemorate these milestones, we must also confront the unfinished work that lies ahead. The existence of legal frameworks is not enough. We must close the gap between laws and their implementation. Across the region, women will struggle to access justice, protection, and repatriation. And that struggle still continues due to institutional weaknesses, underfunded mechanisms, and persistent impunity. In addition, new and emerging threats such as digital and technology facilitated gender based violence require urgent and coordinated responses. This is why, as we mark Beijing plus 30, Masegvi calls for renewed political will, stronger accountability mechanisms, and sustained regional cooperation. States must go beyond commitments and ensure full implementation of their obligations under the Belém do Pará Convention by adequately resourcing national and regional oversight mechanisms to guarantee effective monitoring and technical assistance. The 30th anniversary of Beijing and Balam Dupara must be a turning point. It is not enough to reaffirm our commitments. We must take decisive action to accelerate implementation, strengthen accountability, and ensure that the rights enshrined in these frameworks become a lived reality for all women. And to answer the second part of the question, Bream, over the past 30 years, the Beijing Platform for Action and the Inter American Convention on the Prevention, Punishment, and Eradication of Violence Against Women, which is the Belém do Pará Convention, have served as fundamental instruments for advancing women's rights, gender equality, and the eradication of violence against women in Latin America and the Caribbean. The convergence of international and regional commitments established by these frameworks has been instrumental in driving legal and policy reforms, fostering international mechanisms, and improving the lives of women and girls across the region. In this context, MASECV, the follow-up mechanism to the Belém do Pará Convention, was established 20 years ago to monitor and support states parties in fulfilling their obligations under the convention by providing technical assistance, issuing recommendations, and facilitating regional cooperation. Mastagvi has played a pivotal role in translating the commitments of both the Belém do Pará Convention and the Beijing Platform into concrete action. Through periodic evaluations and a regional system of gender-based violence indicators, Masegvi has helped states assess their progress and identify areas for improvement. This monitoring process has not only reinforced accountability, but has also guided the development of more than 180 national laws addressing gender based violence, including over 70 laws incorporating differentiated approaches for women in vulnerable situations. Regarding femicidal violence, 50 laws have been adopted to classify and penalize the violent killing of women. Currently, 18 countries have legislation specifically criminalizing this form of violence. The Inter-American Model Law on the Prevention, Punishment, and Eradication of Gender-Related Killing of Women and Girls, femicide, developed by Masegvi, has been a key instrument in driving progress in this area. Beyond femicide, Masegvi recommendations have been instrumental in incorporating other forms of violence against women: psychological, sexual, economic, political, and symbolic, international legal frameworks. Instruments such as the Inter-American Model Law on the Prevention, Punishment, and Eradication of Violence against Women in Political Life have driven legislative reforms across the region, prompting several countries to adopt their national laws to explicitly recognize and address this form of violence. Currently, Masegvi is developing a new model law focused on gender-based, technology-facilitated, and digital violence against women, further advancing protection in this evolving area. These ongoing efforts continue to strengthen women's access to justice and enhance legal and institutional protections against gender-based violence. Apart from the legislative progress, Masegvi has also been crucial in strengthening institutional capacities to address violence against women. The mechanism has promoted the creation of specialized judicial and police units to handle gender-based violence cases, advocated for integrated approaches across health, justice, and social protection sectors, and worked to ensure that national mechanisms for women's rights are effectively resourced and empowered. And as I come to the end of the second question, moreover, Masegvi has emphasized the importance of data collection and analysis as a key tool for tracking progress and informing policy decisions. The mechanism has consistently urged states to adopt disaggregated data systems, allowing for a more in-depth understanding of the prevalence, causes, and consequences of gender-based violence, as well as the effectiveness of state responses. Today, all states in the region collect data on domestic violence, and most Latin American countries have expanded this to include statistics on specific forms of violence against women. By aligning its efforts with the commitments of the Beijing Platform, Masegvi has reinforced the regional implementation of international standards, ensuring that gender-based violence is not only recognized as a violation of human rights, but is also addressed through comprehensive legal policy and institutional frameworks. These combined efforts continue to shape a more just and equitable future for women and girls in Latin America and the Caribbean. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharna, for this and for making a very powerful and compelling case about the need for international and regional legal frameworks, but also mechanisms to converge, and the power of their collective action on behalf of women and girls. I will also then say a few words about how the mandate has engaged, and I'm going to focus actually on the implications or the significance of Beijing turning 30, and through that also speaking about how the mandate engaged. So basically, I can think of 7 points, 7 ways that demonstrate the significance of this anniversary, the 30th anniversary. Number 1, it's an opportunity to show a real renewed commitment, particularly by states, to the objectives of the BDPA, namely of ending violence and discrimination against women and girls. It actually is a moment that requires us to walk the talk, as was also mentioned by my colleagues that states need to demonstrate and convey a stronger political will. They also need to put their hand where their mouth is, meaning higher resource allocations to programs in the institutions that prevent and respond to violence. And of course, we know that this is easier said than done, especially today, where we see an increase of the adoption of austerity measures. We have seen an alarming reduction of humanitarian and development aid by a number of countries. And we know from experience that the first programs and the first institutions for whom resources are cut are the ones that address vulnerable and marginalized groups, or groups that suffer structural discrimination and violence. And of course, women and girls are very much overly or majority represented there. Number two, it's an opportunity to highlight the persistent global challenges that we collectively confront in ending discrimination and violence. I think several of my colleagues, and I'm not going to repeat here, have shown that these challenges are not only increasing, they're becoming more complex, they're reinforcing each other, whether it's the gender regression that was, gender equality regression that was mentioned, or the complex structural barriers that we are seeing. We are in times of global, multiplying, intersecting emergencies, whether it's conflict and war, whether it's the climate crisis, whether, as we said, it's austerity measures, whether it's the consequences of COVID-19, and adding to that, of course, the new manifestations of violence and new forms of violence and new avenues through which this violence is expressing itself. Three, it emphasizes really the need for comprehensive and holistic approaches to addressing systematic barriers that hamper the achievement of gender equality. And here, allow me to say that the mandate has consistently emphasized the structural, systematic nature of violence against women. It's always underscored that states have a legal obligation under international human rights law to address not only individual acts of violence, but also the underlying social, economic, and political structures that perpetrate it. And over the 30 years that the mandate has existed, it has called for holistic approaches that integrate gender-sensitive legal reforms with structural changes to dismantle these institutionalized forms of discrimination. And it's also called for attention to these systemic issues that I've alluded to. Number four, the Beijing Declaration and Platform of Action have had a common thread throughout all their articles, namely the importance of ensuring women's empowerment and their participation in all spheres of life. So ensuring that they are equal partners in the design and implementation of any policies. So again, women don't just deserve an equal seat at the table, but they actually should design the table and decide whether there should be a table to begin with. Number five, and I think we don't speak about this enough or think about this enough, which is that Beijing highlighted the need for global solidarity and the need to mobilize international support for initiatives aimed at ending violence. I know we don't often think of the BDPA as connected to solidarity. However, it expressly recognizes the importance of international solidarity as a cornerstone for achieving gender equality, and recognizes the critical role of global cooperation, partnership, and solidarity in achieving its goals, recognizing that you need collective effort. Number six is the importance of an intersectional approach. I think many of my colleagues spoke about that. The mandate has over the years also emphasized that the failure of states to incorporate an intersectional analysis in their legal framework and policy measures undermines their obligations. The mandate has also over the years drawn attention to specific groups of women and girls that have been more exposed to violence or faced very specific gendered ways of violence, like women in politics, women journalists, mothers engaged in custody cases, indigenous women and girls in prostitution, etc., etc. The list is long. And the last one I would say is that Beijing, this is the moment to re-emphasize the importance of strengthening accountability mechanisms as essential tools to address impunity, including through legal reforms. Much of that has been touched by my colleagues. I don't want to, repeat that, except that we have actually in the past, as a mandate, said that there is not enough harnessing of the interdependence and interconnectedness of the different legal frameworks, whether regional or international, but also the mandate has drawn attention to the fact that there is a gap at international level, namely that there is no independent treaty that addresses violence against women and has made the call for that. I close by saying a few words about the one recommendation I hope comes out of the CSW is a recognition of the important moment we are in. So reaffirming the commitment of states to the roadmap set by Beijing, recognizing the threats of erosion, recognizing that extraordinary times require extraordinary measures. So we cannot continue with business as usual. And therefore also the platforms and avenues and mechanisms we have to discuss and address violence against women cannot continue to be business as usual. So very much re-emphasizing the need to see a revitalized CSW coming out of this session, a CSW that will discuss in very concrete and operational ways how to address shortcomings, how to address the regressions, and how to also ensure accountability for acts of discrimination and violence taking place against women and girls. So with that, I think we come to the end of our session. I must say, like also what Maria said, I've learned a lot from my colleagues listening to them about how they and their mechanisms viewed Beijing. This is, of course, just the beginning, and we will be continuing many of these conversations in New York and beyond. I hope that those who will watch this and listen to us will find this also useful, and please do not hesitate to reach out either to the platform or to us individually if you would like to discuss this further. Thank you once again to my colleagues for your time. And we will see you again very soon.
Thank you, Reem.
Thank you.